Hey, we're here to talk Lego cities today. More importantly, how to start them and the considerations so that you don't make the same mistakes I did when I first started my city. So, let's begin. The first thing to consider about getting a Lego room together or Lego city is to have a plan of the layout of the room. Early on, I drew a floor plan of the room with the measurements so that I can kind of assess what I wanted to build with. And I made a decision early on to use plywood. So you can come over here to Gavin's table and kind of see the layout that we did here. This is very similar to my very first layout. I didn't know anything about building cities. I hadn't watched a lot of videos from different YouTubers. And honestly, I was trying to just throw it together with the kind of resources that I had available. So we have just a sheet of plywood. This one was cut shorter so that it would fit within the city. On top of just some storage racks that I had left over in the garage. These racks allowed me to store Lego bricks and packages as well as partial builds in an easy to control area underneath the city tabletop. And then as I started expanding, I grabbed this white folding table and put another sheet of plywood on it. Until eventually you see the layout I have now with 3 tabletops and a bunch of shelves. So as I evolved, I realized I wanted to have something a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer for shelving underneath, as well as something that gave me a little bit more control. So I bought these shelves on Walmart.com with the ability to remove the center shelf so I could add bins and put my trays and boxes underneath. And I did this throughout the bottom of all of my main table. And because I've got the little kids and they want to play Lego with me, I had to give them their space. So this became kind of our Friendsville or Friendsland. And if you remember, the Lego room was really torn apart yesterday. And so this is kind of what they did to fix it for now. And then Gavin, he got this table over here where he was able to build and kind of park his builds. And then we used the white table over here as our shared building space. So as you design it, you want to make sure you have enough room for you to fit within the room, as well as your Lego. As you look over here, I originally did not block off the door because that door goes out to our backyard, and realized I'm good without that. I can just set it up in such a way that all I needed was enough room to walk by. And I'm a really big guy, so as I come back here, I like to have about 2 feet. I think I gave myself about 20 inches of space. But that way I can get all the way back and be able to access the track, trains back here, as well as the buildings, reposition people. We have this little fair going on in our park, as well as be able to just get in and take some pictures and take a look at our different buildings within the center part of the city. But making room for you to fit is probably the next biggest step. And recognizing that's why we cut out over here enough of a space that I could disassemble the train right here and over here and be able to reach back so I can get back into this back corner, because the corner back in here was too far to reach without making some room from this side. And so that was step 2. Step 3, honestly, when you start to build a city, is assessing what your space really needs. So I wanted to use plywood. Plywood is 4 feet wide. So if you were to look at a standard pad, a 32 by 32 on a sheet of plywood, you're able to fit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/2. Allowing me, for my layout, I wanted lots of roads because my kids love cars and I have so many vehicles you can see sitting around the city. So as you look at the roads, I wanted to be able to have a road on this side, enough to do a true modular block. So when you think of a modular block of 4 buildings, this one right here only has 3 because we're deciding what we want to actually build and put in this spot. So it was a great place to park the Aston Martin. So we figured James Bond needed a place to hide out and be ready to roll out and find the bad guys. And then over here we did the same modular block concept with the fire station, our kind of office building, and then we did here the Chinese garden, where we mocked it out to combine them and build an extra wall so it looks like a true walled-in garden like you would find in the downtown of many cities across the US. But by doing this, we discovered that the issue we're having is with the train track. And that's what I'm working through right now, and you'll see future videos on, is how to properly stabilize the train track, overlapping a portion of the pad and also kind of hanging off the edge of the plywood. As long as the track is secured, in our previous build before I put the felt down, I was able to run the track fully on the plywood without utilizing this 16 by 32 space that I have built up going down the side of the road. And on this side, by pushing the track, I ended up pushing it a little too far over the edge, so that's what I'm playing with, using a traditional base plate to hold it up versus a pad base plate, you know, the heavy duty plates that you'd see in a modular or in a lot of the newer construction. So reinforcing the train track has been a concern for me, but if you aren't really committed to having a train in your city, then doing the base plate layout the way we did will work really great. Now we chose to do the layout in like a block of 3. So I wanted to have a park space and open area that we can really work with here. And then we have the modular quad, a road to connect the 2 roads, a modular quad, and then more park space in front of the temple. And for us, making a center point or a focal point of our downtown was really important. And so we were able to create a community that is kind of based around that building. And then as I came back around, I chose the L-shaped design of this table, mostly because of the nature of the room and the ability to move around. I chose to put a lot of our more traditional modulars across the back wall, because although they are fantastic and they're from Lego, I like my MOCs, and I like to really try and bring them more forward and front and center within our city. And right now, Gavin and I have been playing around with having stormtroopers invading the city, and so that's why you see the AT-AT right here. One thing I've been really concerned with and trying to play with is what to do with the Haunted Mansion. This haunted house set, it's so tall. If you look at the tops, it lines up at the top of the AT-AT, the top of the Daily Bugle. Well, building that tall within the skyline that I've created here, really, it doesn't fit well. So we're looking at pushing it along the back wall to help blend it in with the Daily Bugle. But let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm kind of at a loss for ideas there. And then over here, we added a shelf, and this was something we learned from a couple of YouTubers, how they expanded their city by just really elevating an extra level of city tabletop above, and one of their big concerns was not having enough space. And so I measured out 12 inches to be able to give me enough space for every train to go through, as well as I can get my hands way back in the back to be able to access that shunting line for the train that we can park back there, and to be able to get to that junction point so that we can run trains either around the main city circle, or we can bring it across this bridge. And by bringing it across the bridge, we connect it to the Gavin's table, which has a functional circle around it. But since the rebuild, we haven't had a chance to really clear it and give him back his space. So he's really keeping on top of me to make sure I get him back in line. But by doing this shelf, I was able to create a whole new area. And I have a passion for castles, going back to when I was a kid and having the old castle and Forestman sets. And so I wanted to have an area for castle, but with a modern city and a modular city, the castles just, they don't fit, they don't blend in as well. And so my goal is to create kind of a Renaissance fair-esque feeling up here on the top of the shelf, and then build a wall down from the top to look like a cliff face with some sort of river or waterfall. So that's on deck for builds here into the future. But as you're building your city, really pay attention to the space, and if you are going to do a double-decker, make sure you have enough room to get down into the back and get down in there, because that really is critical for operations and for really utilizing the space. Because what you don't want to do is elevate above the table, and all you really did was elevate a portion of the table higher, but make the underside unusable. The next step is to make sure you have a build space. My build space right now is kind of overtaken by storage. I have a mock over here in these bins that I sorted out by brick and by plate from all of my extra parts that I'm working on that hope to show off here in the future. as well as kind of our logo pad that I was working on earlier this week, and planning to do a class on kind of letters and the different techniques that I used here and different techniques that you've seen by other builders on how to properly use letters. But by having this build space, I have it organized in a way where I can utilize the smaller containers here for all the little 1x1s and little color. I haven't sorted by color. I ended up sorting more by function. So you have, trans clear, rounds, and then minifig pieces, minifig legs, Technic, plants. But as you go through, find a way that works for you. Right now, this organized mess is definitely not working for me, but it'll have to do while work is going on. And I always try and have my computer nearby with the studio software. I'm working right now on finishing up a design for a nativity set that I created over the Christmas break that I hope to get posted on Rebrickable soon. With studio software, I was able to create a city design. So early on, before I even had the city, I wanted to see how much space I could really fit within my city. And so I had built this design probably about 5 years ago as I was really thinking about getting into the city landscape. The only building I had built at that time was the temple, and so I knew all the other buildings I would need to be able to fit around it. So if you notice, I made it out for base plates, and I tried to offset the roads on the inside, but the studio software does not do very good about helping you account for the distance and the width of the track, especially around the curves. And so although the curves allowed me to lay it out within the software here, on the pad, it was probably a good 1.5 to 2 inches too wide. But let me know what you think, and let me know if there's any questions that you have about designing a city or building a city that maybe I can help you with, or if you have pointers, if you already have a city and you've learned some of these mistakes that I've pointed out, please comment and give me ideas for how I can improve and how we together can really figure out how to have more fun with Lego, because ultimately that's the goal. That's my goal here with this channel, is to have fun with Lego between me and the children, and to be able to really enjoy my Lego room and help you to find a way to really enjoy Lego yourself, because making the commitment to get into Lego at this level really is quite the experience. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to exploring some of these different areas with you more fully. Until then, I hope that you have as much fun as we do with our bricks. Bye.